What is up, you guys? It's Dom here from JoJo Productions, and today we're going to be taking a look at a comparison between my Panasonic G7 and my Canon 7D. Both of these cameras I absolutely love. I have used both of these in very professional settings, whether it be photography or video. But today I just want to see which one is better, I guess, if you will. Now, what I'm going to be looking for when I'm doing this test is I want to see low light performance, dynamic range, sharpness, colors, all that kind of stuff that you would find in a normal camera comparison. I just want to take a look here for my sake because I do like both cameras a lot, and this is actually a video that I've been wanting to do for quite some time. So now that I'm finally doing it, I can die happily now, actually. So anyway, let's jump into this thing. Let's start off with dynamic range. So here we go. Okay, so here we are with the dynamic range, starting out with the Canon. So as you can see, the Canon doesn't look too bad, and we are shooting with a 50mm lens at 1.8 ISO 200. We're shooting at ISO 200 because the Panasonic G7's lowest ISO in video is 200, so we definitely got to keep those the same. Anyway, let's take a look here. The image really doesn't actually look too bad. You can see nicely into those shadow areas where the couch is, and you can see some details of the couch, which is great. But you can also see into those highlights, which is also pretty nice. So anyway, by the way, picture profile is completely neutral. Everything turned down, sharpness, contrast, saturation, gonna give us the flattest picture profile. So there you go, that is the Canon 7D, and I think dynamic range isn't too bad. Okay, now here we are with the Panasonic G7, and as you can see, there is a lot more dynamic range. You can definitely see into those details on the couch a lot better. Geez, you can even see onto the floor, the little side table there. The highlights, you can definitely see into those highlights a lot better. So the Panasonic G7 definitely has the better dynamic range. So yes, all the settings are the same, by the way. 50mm, 1.8 aperture, ISO 200, really super flat picture profile, Cine D, which I think Panasonic obviously has the advantage because this is actually kind of a video picture profile. It's meant for this kind of stuff. It's meant to be super flat so you can grade and do all that stuff. So there you go. I think that the Panasonic definitely wins the dynamic range. There you go. So yeah, definitely wins the dynamic range competition here. Okay, so now here we are with the color test, and what I want to see for the color test is how these cameras render colors. Now, first of all, we are taking a look at the Canon 7D, and Canon has always had legendary color science. I just want to see if the greens look like they should, the reds, the yellows. I just want to see what these cameras lean towards. So white balance is just set to a daylight setting because that's the kind of light that I got coming down on the subjects here. And you know, looking at the Canon 7D, it really doesn't actually look too bad. It's pretty warm, which is nice. And the colors, they actually seem pretty accurate. Again, I'm actually shooting in the flat picture profile, and the colors actually seem to punch really, really nicely, even though it is a bit of a flatter picture profile. So that is super nice. So now let's take a look at the Panasonic G7, yeah? Okay, so now here we are with the Panasonic G7. As you can see, it's super flat picture profile, not a lot of colors. But if we do add some contrast, you will see that the colors, they seem to be really warm. And that's what I've kind of found with the Panasonic G7, is that the colors kind of shift towards a yellowy you know, kind of a green, even like a magenta tone, which, I don't know, that's really, really interesting. I think there's a good and bad to that. But if we're talking about getting accurate colors, I would actually have to say that the Canon 7D wins in this case. Now, with the Panasonic G7, it's obviously super easy to fix the colors if you know how to color grade. But yeah, I think it's interesting that the Panasonic kind of renders this green magenta-y tone. But again, I think there's kind of I don't know. It's very weird to me. So anyway, that is the color test. There you go. Okay, so now here we are with the Canon 7D. We're doing the low light test. I've got the ISO cranked all the way up to 1600. The aperture is as wide open as I can get at f1.8, and as you can see, for the well-exposed part of the area, it actually doesn't look too bad. It holds up. But if you take a look at the far right corner, just above the stove there in that little shadow area, you can definitely see a lot of noise, and it's not like a very pleasing noise either. It's more of a very digital kind of blocky noise, which I don't think is really a good thing. Definitely it's not a good thing. Anyway, that is with the flat picture profile, but now I just want to see what it looks like if I put it back onto like a standard picture profile, because if you have a really flat picture profile, it definitely kind of opens up. It kind of just definitely opens up the image, and you can see a lot more noise. So let's just let's turn that over to a standard picture profile. Okay, so here we are with the standard picture profile on the Canon 7D. You know, actually, it doesn't look too bad. You could still see the noise in that far right corner, though. I definitely would only shoot about 1600 on the Canon 7D if you want anything usable. Now I do have to say that in most scenarios, you're not going to shoot like this. I mean, you're definitely going to have this area lit. This is just to show what it can do. Anyway, Canon 7D, pretty typical. So 1600 ISO, most DSLRs are like that. So there you go, that's the Canon 7D. Okay, and now here we are with the Panasonic G7. And actually the image is a lot cleaner, but take a look at the back of this stove, the black part of it. Same kind of thing. You can definitely see some noise there, but it's not as bad as the Canon 7D. The noise from the Panasonic G7, it's a little finer than the Canon 7D. It's not as blocky. And honestly, 1600. I shoot at 1600 all the time, and it actually usually looks pretty good. So this, again, shot really flat picture profile. Now let's turn it over to a more standard picture profile, and let's see what it does there. Okay, here's the standard picture profile. As you can see, it definitely seems to kind of mask that noise a bunch more. It's crushing those blacks. Because again, when you open up the blacks and stuff, you can definitely see all the noise and the imperfections. That's where you can definitely see a lot of the noise is in those darker parts of the areas. And that's what we're just looking for. We just want to see what the noise is like. But with the picture profile like this, it actually doesn't look too bad. I shoot this picture profile all the time. Well, it's not the standard picture profile. It's actually the Cine Type V. Actually, let's give that a look, and let's see what the Cine Type V looks like too. This is 1600 ISO with the Cine Type V. Damn, stove just turned on. Anyway, so 1600 ISO with the Cine Type V. Again, really, it doesn't look bad. This is actually super usable. I shoot at 1600 all the time on this camera. Sometimes even 2000, and 2000 still looks pretty good. So anyway, again, this isn't a scenario that you would shoot like this. You would definitely have this kind of a thing lit. But again, for fun, just to see what it looks like, I think it doesn't look too bad. Okay, so now we're gonna do some rolling shutter tests, and I'm just gonna wobble the camera back and forth. So yeah, there you go. You know, the Canon 7D's rolling shutter is pretty horrendous, as most DSLRs usually are. Rolling shutter is usually pretty bad on these DSLRs. So there you go, that is what the rolling shutter on the Canon 7D looks like. Okay, and now rolling shutter for the Panasonic G7. Here we go. Same kind of thing. You can definitely take a look at the lines on the fridge, man. They're just like jello-y and wobbly all over the place. Again, most DSLRs are definitely not going to do well with the rolling shutter thing. So both, well, as far as that one goes, I guess both of them are pretty bad at rolling shutter. Okay, so now here we are, we're taking a look at the sharpness of these two cameras. Well, really, it doesn't really matter, it's all about the lens. But either way, I just want to see sharpness and overall detail that you can get. And taking a look here at the Panasonic G7, it really actually doesn't look too bad. That is pretty darn sharp. Now, I am, in fact, shooting only a 1080p, but let's switch over to 4K because the Panasonic G7 can do 4K, so let's switch over to that and see how that compares. Okay, now we're in glorious 4K, and as you can see, there's even more detail with the 4K footage. Not surprised, obviously 4K is 4 times as much detail as 1080p. So there you go, there's the little stain on my wall sharpness test from the Panasonic G7. Okay, and now here's the stain on the wall sharpness test for the Canon 7D, 1080p. Honestly, not as sharp as the Panasonic G7's 1080p, but it still looks pretty good. And obviously the Panasonic G7 4K is gonna, just whoop the Canon 7D at 1080p. But still, with the lens stopped down all the way to 2.8, it actually doesn't look too bad. Still pretty usable, nice and crisp and sharp. So yeah, I think both of those are pretty good at for sharpness. So there you go. So there you go. That is the Panasonic G7 versus the Canon 7D. Obviously, both of these cameras have their own strengths and weaknesses. Both are pretty bad when it comes to rolling shutter. Canon 7D is a bit better when it comes to color reproduction. Panasonic G7 is better in low light and sharpness. So again, each camera is going to have its own strengths and weaknesses. It doesn't matter which camera you use. Just get out there and shoot the damn camera and just tell your story that you want to tell. But, if I was to recommend a camera, because both of these are actually about the same price, you can get a used Canon 7D in really good condition, like I did, for about $450, and you can get a like new Panasonic G7 for about $500. So if you save an extra $50, you can jump up to the Panasonic G7 and you can get some 4K, and that's something that the Canon 7D just does not offer. And again, for only $500, 4K and a little camera like the Panasonic G7 is obviously just brilliant and amazing. So anyway, there you guys go. There is the comparison between the brilliant Canon 7D and the amazing Panasonic G7. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you loved it, subscribe. If you have any comments on the camera comparison, please let me know. Because this is my first camera comparison I've ever done, and I know for a fact that there's probably room for some improvement. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed that video, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.